Today, I'm going to show you 5 simple tricks to weathering those metallics. Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days on this glorious Friday in the Beats Lab. In Hollywood, California, I got another painting tutorial for you. Today, we're doing 5 simple tricks. We haven't done one yet this year, we've only done 3. So that's almost twice as much simple tricks as the last video. I'm going to show you something simple. I'm going to show you how easy it can be to take a large metallic surface and make it look realistic, weathered, and natural in 5 simple tricks. That easy, guys. We're going to be using a lot of crazy shit here in the Beats Lab today, trying to bring that new level of heat in 2017. I'm going to keep it kind of short, guys. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch. That's the live channel. If you guys didn't know, now you know. Links in the description box below. Big special shout out to all my patrons this week. I'll be putting out a little bit of a thank you video, guys, real soon. You know who you are. I can't do it without you. I am keeping the lights on because of you. Let's jump right into it, guys. Let's get it done. All right, guys, let's do this. Secret Weapon Miniatures Acrylics, Yellow Rust. We're going to start there. I love these paints, but first, simple trick number 1. Do you notice that this metal barricade is already painted metallic? I just used some bargain basement spray paint from Home Depot. That's simple. Make it easy on yourself, guys. Cut those corners when it comes to things like this. Now we're taking this yellow rust, and if you watched my first video of the year where I talked about my official favorite colors that I use as a painting studio here at Next Level Painting, I obviously talked about Secret Weapon Miniatures. They have a 15 paint acrylic line out marketed as weathering tones. So I'm starting off with the bright yellow. We're coming out real broad, real liberal. We're not paying too much attention to the panels, but we are sort of tracing the panels. Now let's move into orange rust. Now I did talk about this a lot in that video. Orange rust is a great color, and we're gonna do the same thing we just did, but we're gonna narrow the focus by some small percentage. We're gonna trace the panels. We're gonna let it blend in with the yellow. We're not gonna completely wipe out the yellow, but we are gonna augment the yellow. You see, it's already looking good. It's already looking nice and rusty. It's looking kind of sickly. That's the effect we're going for. When you do something like this, these types of metal barricades, these big broad surfaces, it is important to whip out that airbrush. It will literally change everything. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. You know, obviously we're just tracing, but it's fun to pull out your airbrush and trace sometimes. Now let's slide into another color by Secret Weapon Miniatures. This is a color I didn't use in the last video, red rust. We're going to take this red rust, and now we're actually going to really focus down, get in tight, and actually trace these panels. You see, we're creating that contrast. There's pretty much only 2 ways to create contrast: make something darker or make something brighter. That is a fundamental lie, but don't ask me why. Just focus on making the things darker at this moment, and maybe later I'll talk to you about all the truths of contrast. So as we trace these crevices, the shadows, we're kind of doing 2 things here. We're kind of like simulating maybe more aggressive rusting and weathering, but also mainly we're simulating a shadow. That's what you do with miniatures. Miniatures are so small that you have to exaggerate the details, the shadows, the lighting, in order to make them look their best. The bigger a model, the less you have to do that with, and actually the more silly it looks. So here we go, drawing them in, doing some fun little streaks. And here's a cool thing. You can take this as far as you want. You could have pulled out a black after this, and you could have intensified it with some nice scorching, some nice carbon staining with black. You can get as aggressive as you want. But for this video, we're focusing on a pretty realistic and subdued weathering effect. Now, it doesn't look realistic at all right now. It looks pretty exaggerated. Bear with me as we come in here and narrow this focus, add this contrast. Definitely love me these Secret Weapon miniature paints, but you could probably do this with, any one of your favorite painting companies. You could do this with GW Paints, pretty close, I would say. You could do this with P3s, Reaper. It's just easier to go with Secret Weapon Miniatures because they have all the colors. Okay, guys, simple trick number 3. If the first simple trick of this video is priming this thing silver, the second simple trick is using an airbrush to establish weather tones. The third simple trick is this technique I call juicing. I don't know if that's a real thing, but I like it. What I'm doing is I'm using a custom wash I made. It's green, black, and brown. It's all GW mixed together. And I run it through my airbrush and I start building up a pretty aggressive coat of wash with relatively low PSI, pretty fast trigger work. And we're just building it up, letting it pull up into the corners, letting it ring around any circular objects, letting it find its way into the panels around the nuts and the bolts. Just keep building it up, get pretty aggressive with it. See, here we go. Now after we got a nice little established coat of that, we're just gonna go intense right here, just beast. But that's not all. I also like to take the air and push some of the big puddles around into a kind of a spiderwebby effect. I'm not actually trying to push it away from the surfaces, the big flat panels. I'm actually just trying to create weird patterns in the wash to kind of give us some, like, you know, random staining, random organic material or carbon, whatever, or oil, whatever causes these types of things. I'm not a rust scientist. I couldn't tell you. Focusing down, making sure we're getting our rings looking good, feeling it, loving it. You see how shiny it is? It's still super wet. But now what we're going to do is we're going to let it dry just a little bit. We're going to let it get tacky and kind of sticky as the wash dries. And I'm feeling it's almost ready right now in its semi-dry state. So I'm going to show you another pretty gangster little trick right here. Sponging. Now we're not actually sponging anything on, and we're barely removing anything. What we're doing is aggressively attacking the sticky, semi-dry wash, and we're creating a nice orange peeling, almost a dimpled surface like the surface of an orange peel or a golf ball. And it's actually creating a real texture, slight but real. And also visually, the texture will be pretty easy to see because you see what's happening here. It's slightly removing some of the wash, but also just reforming it in some cases. Looking pretty good. Okay, there we go. Pretty solid. So now we're going to slide into our fourth simple trick, dry brushing. Stormhouse Silver, GW, pretty good for dry brushing. They're not my favorite paints. I wouldn't use them on small miniatures. I wouldn't use this metallic. I think it's a little too thick, but I think it's perfect for something like this. So now we're just going to aggressively dry brush this. You see how awesome and equalized our piece of metal looks now. It looks very rusted, very gangster. But now what we're going to do is we're going to attack those ridges. We're going to bring the metal back out. We're going to be aggressive on the edges to create that contrast, but we are still going to apply it to the flats. We want to hit all the nuts, the bolts. We make sure everything's got some type of pop. It's okay, since there's a slight texture to the flat panels now, the orange peel is going to grab some of that metal and look pretty cool over the flat surfaces, you see? Just go aggressive, and also make sure to keep spinning the barricade in your hands. Hit it from all directions because you want to make sure that every ridge is highlighted on every side. That's what we're going for here. Nice weathered, nice realistic, nice muted tones. Make it look its absolute best. In 5 simple tricks. Now we are fast approaching the 5th and final simple trick, ancient Chinese technique. You guys have probably seen it before, but I'm not going to spoil it for you just yet. Let's just get aggressive here. But it is missing something. I'll let you ponder it. It's missing color. It's missing that last pop. Now you could just set this down and be pretty happy with it right now. But you need to start thinking about things as an artist. Like, it'd be nice if there's a fun little color in here, some kind of new focal point, something to look at beyond the fact that you can appreciate that it's just a nice, muted, realistic, weathered piece of metal. There's something we can do, and it's definitely color-based. So get it all good and dry brush, looking its best, flip it around. See, there's a little Gretchen hiding in there. We got to come back and paint him in a minute on this other panel. But obviously, sliding into our 5th and final simple technique, it is GW RZA Rust. Love this color, and I've got a kind of a secret trick to using it. I want to get a pile of it in this ancient Chinese bottle cap lid. We're going to pour some water in, and then we're going to mix it up. We're going to create a slurry, and then this slurry has enough water in it that we can start using it almost as a wash. More water. Get it nice and watery. And the cool thing about RZA Rust is it dries pretty muted when you do this. If you turn it into a little gangster wash like this, it'll go on just like a wash. Check this out. We're just going to aggressively attack all these nuts and all these bolts. See this? But it might look a bit aggressive right now to you, but don't worry. It does dry very stainy and very muted. And you can apply this, this layer over and over again to intensify the areas that you want. I love the fact that it stains in pretty realistic rust patterns. Because rust is pretty unpredictable. I'm not a rust scientist, but I know I can do a Google search and see that it's pretty interesting. So I'm focusing on the nuts. You always got to focus on them nuts. I just always assume like where metal touches metal, there's going to be some drainage. Maybe some water gets built up there from rain, and you might see some rings of some rust there. So it looks really monotonous and really tedious, but it actually goes pretty fast. This is happening in real time, that we're just attacking every single one of these nuts that quick. It's really not that big of a deal, but we got to do a little bit more. Once we get all the nuts looking their best, we're going to have to focus on those panels again. So what I'm doing right now is I'm wicking away some of the excess rust from the tops of some of the bigger nuts so that they dry with more contrast, with more of the rust focused on the ringing. That's important. But you see now I'm getting kind of aggressive. I'm starting to think about some of these channels in between the panels. Coming in pretty aggressive. Don't worry, it's very watered down. Like I said, it's going to be much more muted. It's not going to be this aggressive. It's going to look fabulous. We've got a big fan, a big grate. We've got lots of little pieces where metal is laying on top of metal that we can just come in, bang it out real quick. This is pretty therapeutic. It's not very difficult. It's actually a really fun style to paint. There we go. Now let's start focusing down on this fan. We got to get these nuts real quick. Work them away. And now let's, clean them up a bit. Guy was kind of over aggressive, but I love to just come in on fans and be like, you know what? This fucking fan, rusted shut, homie. Dead to me. That's simple. It's important to find everything, create that consistency, slide it across. If you did it on one side, you got to do it on the other side. It's not monotonous until you have to do it about 5 times, in my opinion. And we only have to do this 4 times on this project because I have 2 walls and barricades that I converted from an Orc Stompa from the skirt. And I'm going to use them for my Imperial Bunker as purchased barricade extensions for my Nurgle army that I'm bringing to LVO. That way I can have some nice cover in my deployment zone for my Plague Flies. Get those tips and those tactics. Well, that's it, guys. I mean, that's all 5 tricks, really. Recap. Busted ass metal primer, airbrushing some of your pigments on, airbrushing your washes on, dry brushing, and RZA rust. Those are my 5 simple tricks to creating a realistic metal with very few headaches. Let's let this dry a little bit. Let's let these RZA rust colors mute out, and you can see how clutch it actually looks. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Very nice, very subtle, very realistic. It's a great starting place. You can go in there and you can just detail this out to your heart's content with all manner of effects. Yo, literally, guys, do me one favor if you can, though, before you click away from this video, if you've stayed with me this long. If you can, subscribe to this video, or if you already have subscribed, click on this button right here. Open up this panel, click on the bell, because you need to get these notifications. See, send me notifications on this channel. Click save. Doing me a solid, guys. Thanks for watching. Play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.